I know he's going to add a ton of value to you. Siva.
Really appreciate that. I have to tell you, to put a conference like this takes a lot of effort. So I don't know how many people are involved in this. I have to tell you guys, thank you for doing all this, because we're all going to enjoy that. Having said that, I'm going to start my presentation with, I want you to think about who is the ultimate passive investor. That's how to give you a clue what I'm going to talk about today. As a passive investor, what am I looking for? That's what I'll be talking about today. So as I'm talking about it, think and tell me who is the passive investor. Okay. Hey, I just want to let you know a little bit about me. That's my family. The pink shirt is my wife there, and the two boys on either end of the picture is my boys. And just a little bit of who I am. I love being a husband and a father, and I love spending time with my family. And of course, that's the reason why I'm a passive investor. I also have my own business. Next one, please. Why multifamily? There are a lot of ways you could invest and make money, right? People make money all different ways. Well, I focus on multifamily because it's a business. It's backed by hard asset, right? It's not like it's pulling out of the air, right? You can also force the appreciation of this asset over time by managing it properly. And while you're doing that, you also get cash. So a lot of different ways it works for me. And so I focus on that primarily because of that. And as a passive investor, I'm looking for minimal involvement from me. Once I get into the deal, I'm not looking to do a lot of work, right? And that's the reason why I go for the passive investment. Now, when I do that, I have to work with somebody, right? If I don't want to work, somebody has to work, right? So I'm looking for a good manager. How do you know somebody's a good manager, right? First off, I should be able to hang out with them, have a beer, and chat about anything other than real estate. I want to know who he is. What does he like? What does she love to do, things in their own time, right? What do they have? Track record. As the conversation goes, I want to know, what's the track record? What have they done in this space? And what's their experience been? Has it been good, bad? I want to know everything, right? That gives you a little bit of a background of, what are their successes, what are their failures, what do they learn from it, and have they gone through any major problem like a CC violation? That in itself may not be a problem, but you need to know that, right? And are they investing in the deal? Do they believe in it enough that I'm going to go out there, I'm going to put my own money where my mouth is, right? That makes a lot of sense. When Veena was talking about it, she would want that. Sometimes you may want that. I'm not insisting on everybody has to put their money in as managers, but I do want to know that they're capable and that they've delivered value to other people. With all of this background check and information I talk about, employment check, background check, I do all of that stuff with anybody I work with. Once I get through, I say, do I have enough respect for this person, he or she? Will I be able to work with them as though they are my business partner? If I say yes, I move on to the next stage. I will entertain any investment that comes from them. Next. Typical metrics you want to have as a passive investor, because as everybody said here, was standing here, right? They do their own deal. And you want to have your own metric. As a passive investor, what do I want? And you have to have that really clear. And you also have to know what the industry normally does, right? And you want to be aware of that too. So once you get into the deal, you have all the decision you can make right up before getting into the deal. You have all control. But once you get into the deal as a passive investor, you have very little control, right? That's real key, but that's what I want. Down for next, okay. So typical equity split between the passive investor and the manager is going to be 70-30, 60-40. There are things that happen outside of it. I'll take a closer look at them. And 8 to 10%, nowadays you're probably getting maybe 8, with the way the market is. Those are typical, so you don't want to go too far out of that range. If you do, then you're in for trouble, right? Whatever you do, first thing, you have to absolutely make sure that whoever's doing the deal, that buy at the right price. If you don't buy at the right price, you'll never make money, period, right? You make money when you buy, and you realize the gain when you sell. Keep that in mind. Most people think you make money when you sell. No, you make money when you buy. And if you bought it at a high price, you're never making money, no matter what you do. You're only figuring out how much you're going to lose. That's what it is. You have to have sufficient NOI. What do I mean by that? Sufficient NOI, that'll cover 3 Ds. What are those? Debt, dividend, and dough. When you have the money, your income minus expenses, right, is your NOI. And the NOI needs to pay the bank first. Otherwise, the bank is taking the property, right? So that's your debt. The next is dividend. Your passive investor need to get the money. If they don't get the money, you will never see a penny again, right? And they will tell 1,000 people that they're not paying the dividend, right? The dividend goes. After the dividend, what's left over is for the manager. But you as a passive investor, discipline enough, look for all 3, not just your dividend. You want to look and make sure that there is dough for the manager. If he doesn't have it, how long is he going to be working hard to make sure this works, right? He's not going to work. He's going to have to find something else to pay his bills, right? Debt ratio, what do I mean by debt ratio? There's enough money in there to cover the debt so that it will never go into foreclosure. That's absolutely essential. Now, typically people use 1.6. Some people go 1.5 and 4. I'm always looking about 1.6. If I get 1.6, that deal has something really hidden in there. I could, accept 1.6. So when you're analyzing deal as a passive investor, your goal is to minimize the risk, right? Because you have no control. Once you get in the deal, you have no control. You're trying to minimize the risk. What ways you can minimize the risk? You do your own due diligence. That's what everybody was talking about, right? You don't take the numbers that's given to you in a private placement memorandum or a nice, deal structure, whatever that is. Take it, that's your starting point. Now you get to work. You figure out what the real deal is. What are these numbers? And I also look for what's the interest rate currently for commercial, and I keep track of that, particularly for different size projects. You got different term sheets you get. You got to be aware. You got to have partnership with folks who are actually doing commercial loans and get to them, understand what they do today. What is the going rate for the market? Find out what exit cap rate you're going to use in your underwriting, right? Not what they use, but you're going to figure it out yourself, what you're going to use. Because today, things may sell for 6 cap. 2 years from now, you will be a seller for 8, 10 cap, right? You got to have some level of surety that you're going to use, reasonable exit cap, because that's what's going to define what money you get when you actually sell. Keep that in mind, right? We're going 2 at a time, right? As a passive investor, you have to go much deeper than simply getting what you given to you, right? Ask for the deal book. That's your start point. That lays out what money they're going to raise, how they're going to use the money, what the projections are in terms of what they're going to make, and what's your initial cash flow, what's your final cash flow, all that it'll show you. That's great, fantastic, right? But I want to know what this property has been doing for the last 12 months. Where's the financial statement? Where's your tax return, right? Where's your rent roll? What are you actually getting rent? I don't care about physical occupancy. You can have 100% physical occupancy. I am exactly worried about your financial occupancy. If I don't have that, no, the deal's not going, right? Have a meeting with the deal maker, right? Manager. Ask him, what do you see that's hidden value in this? What do I mean by that? Have you all heard this oh shit moment? Happens every project. There's a oh shit moment. And if you don't have a hidden value in a property, that oh shit moment will hit you in the face. And you're going to clean up, right? I am always looking for the oh shit. And that's what I want the manager to tell me. What's the oh shit moment that's hiding in there that are going to take care of the whole shit, right? I want to know that, absolutely. Here's an example. This is an actual example. I actually invested in the deal, so it's not an example, it's an actual one. Here's the 79 doors, a small deal. Purchase price about $3 million, right? Built in 70, good distribution of units, and a nice place in the Atlanta area. And equity raise is 1.15, right? The loan is 2.25, and the raise is used, capex and closing costs, and the 25% down, right? And the current NOI says is 271. Split is 60-40. Is this going to work? How do you figure out? I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting T12, do all that stuff, right? I got about 10 minutes to make a decision. Do I want to get in the deal or not? Can we do that? We're going to do that right now. Look at this. Effective rent is $685. How do I figure that? Get your financial occupancy, get your average, and that's your effective rent, right? Put that, do a 95% occupancy. I will never use 100% occupancy in any of my calculations. The max I'd go is 95. I might go even 90, depending on what the deal is. 95%, you got 616. On a unit like this, I would bump up the expenses to 55%. You may say, I do it for 45. I don't really care. I do 55. Here's my number. NOI is 276. Pretty good. That's what they're projecting. Okay. But is that going to really work? Let's find out. All right. Your cash flow is 271. What's your debt service? 157. Subtract, right? That's gone to the bank. What's left over is 118. Is that going to work? 60% of that is going to be $92,000. What's left over is $26,000 for the manager. What is that percentage for him? 22%. He's supposed to get 40%. Is he going to work with the 22%? I don't like it. If the manager says, no, I'll do it, I'll take care of it, no, I don't like it. I want to see what's hidden in here, right? There are a number of things that's hidden in here. However, rents are really low in this. One thing I figured out, because I made some calls, I kind of figured out what's the local rent there. The rents are about $800. This guy is an average of $685. I said, I could easily increase it by $100. But my underwriting, I'll say, well, this is not even underwriting. A quick check, right? Increase it by $65, 95% occupancy. Look at this number. Now it's getting out to NOI of 303 instead of 271, right? And then your cash flow. Now it's 145 after debt. Now after that, you look at this. Your investor side, 92, that's 8%. You take it off the top. Manager gets 53,790. Not bad, right? But guess what? That's about 37%. Oh, okay. This deal is possible. Now it's time to spend your real time. You dig deeper. You do your own underwriting. You figure out, hey, what is the real number? When you do underwriting, this is what you're going to do. First thing, make sure it's not in a war zone. Make sure it's not a C- property. If it is, you be careful, because you're never going to make money on the back end. You have no idea what's going to happen, right? I stay away from war zones. I don't like it. I want to go there. I want to visit the property. If I'm driving in my car and they're taking a part out of my car, not doing that, right? Job and population growth. You want to know there is job coming into that area, and there's people moving into that area. How do I know that? Well, there are several different ways to get them. Bureau of Labor Stats, you can go to Milken Report, City Data, Forbes, the number of stuff. It is all over the place. You just have to spend your time, figure that out, and you'll be able to do that. And then go and find out the local Chamber of Commerce. Sit down, talk to them. Find out, what are they planning? Where are they going? What's the plan for the city? How strong are they about that? Is all in agreement, or they're all fighting with each other, right? If they're fighting with each other, nothing is going, right? I will not invest unless the movement is already there, the investment is already there. I also subscribe to infrastructure development in those areas. There are some emails I get, right? I want to know the roads are being built, bridges are being built, developments are going in there. If they're going in there, guess what? In 5 years, things are going to change. I want to be ahead of it, not chasing it, right? Underwriting the deal, rework your income and expense statement. Why do I say that? Think about it. What you get is what they're actually putting it in the books or submitting it to IRS, whatever that is, right? Within that, you will see you can increase your income several different ways. Is it all in there? Or is it this guy has had it for 20 years, he didn't really care, he's not doing any of that, right? And expenses, I'm looking at this, expenses, every line item, I go through it. I know for every line item, what's the typical for a given unit type property, right? If it's too high, why? If it's too low, why? Right? You want to know that. Because if there's certain line items are too low, guess what? There's deferred maintenance, right? Your CapEx should be higher. You need to know that. Is it possible to increase your rent quickly? Can you reduce the expenses, right? Is there any chargeback that you send it to the tenants, right? That's a way to do that, but you gotta be careful. There's laws that you gotta follow. You can't simply willy-nilly, hey, give me $25 more, right? Doesn't work. You gotta follow the law. Cable contracts, there are other ways to do that. Vending opportunity, number of different ways, upgrades. So these are all increasing the value. However, when you're doing the underwriting, it's absolutely important you be a disciplined investor, right? You don't shoehorn the number in to somehow make it work so you can get along with the deal. No, don't do it. Be a disciplined investor, right? If it all works out, then only you enter the deal, right? If it doesn't, that's my son's advice, right? Not mine, my son's. It's better to be on the ground wishing you were up there than to be up there wishing you were down there, right? You can't get off it. Once you're on it, you can't get off it. You have no control. The pilot is somebody else, right? The other thing I constantly see this all the time as a passive investor is people are talking to me and saying, hey, I want to invest in these, but I got IRA, but that's closing in about a week. I can't get that. Well, make sure you figure out what cash are you going to invest, regular, IRA. If it's IRA, it's going to take time. There are people here, I'm sure, that will tell you about self-directed IRA, how to start an account, how to move the money, and all that stuff. You want to get that all in. Why is that? You got to keep your part of the deal. If the manager you expect to keep his part of the deal, and he wants the money, you're not going to make him wait until the day before close, right? I would rather him have the money at least a week or two before close, okay? That's real key. He doesn't have to spend time chasing you around looking for money because he can do his work if he's chasing you around, right? Diversify. As a passive investor, that is absolutely essential. If you're going to put your money, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't have to know that. Your mom said that too, right? This is something I find all the time with passive investors. They just take the documents, they print it, and they sign it. Nobody ever reads anything. If you're going to passively invest, I would suggest you read every single word of every document that you're signing. If you don't, live with the consequences when it comes, right? If you want to change something, you got to ask for it. Otherwise, it's not going to change. I ask for it all the time. I work with Fortune 500 companies. I change the document, send it back to them, and say, you can't do that. I said, sure I can. Otherwise, I don't want the job. Simple as that. When you finish all of that, act. Don't wait. Because good deals don't sit around long. Okay? If you want on the good deal, you got to act. You got to figure out how much money you want to put in. You got to pull the trigger because you're able to pull the trigger because you have done your homework. You've done your own due diligence. You did not rely on somebody. You know, that's one of the things I do as a passive investor. I work with a lot of other passive investors. I educate them. This is how I do the deal. I want you to be educated. An educated investor is always a better investor, right? He knows what you're doing. He will work with you. Answer the calls. When somebody is calling you, it's very professional. Treat them professionally. Answer the call. Talk to them. Do not be a pain in the you-know-what, right? We all want to work together. Make sure that once you get into the deal, what do? You don't call them every single day, right? Managers have things to do. You check your quarterly reports. Make sure you study them. You read them. You don't just kind of chuck it in there. Hey, I got my money. That's all good. I don't care what the report says. No. Read the report. Find, are there any flags? And if there are flags, talk to the manager about just those flags and what their plans are in terms of addressing and correcting, rectifying it. And then look for the next quarterly report, is there a change, right? If you don't do that, you're going to be in for some trouble. Always network. I cannot tell you that enough. You know, Chad asked, right? How do we network, right? How do we find people? Networking. Talk to people, get to know them, get to know who they are, what they do, what makes them tick, you know, how do they function. Critical to develop those relationships. And if you know a manager has got a great reputation, stick with them, right? Let him do his job, stick with him, stay plugged in. Never isolate yourself. These kinds of events are the ones that helps you to know who are the players, what are they doing, creative deals, how are the ways to do. Do you want to get into buying an LLC? When you buy an LLC, you're buying all the debts, all the problem, everything. The guy walks away, you're left with every problem there is. But if you simply open an LLC, just buy the property, everything else goes away. That's a big difference, right? So if you're doing all this deal passively, you're investing your money, you're making money, right? Why not be a manager, right? He makes 40% of it with no money, right? Phenomenal, right? Hey, if that's what you want to do, if that's your passion, go for it. But know that you got to do work. It's not free money. You got to work for it. If that's what you want, go for it, right? But you got to make a whole lot of people happy. Guarantee you that. Now, if you are a guy who's looking to raise money, that's another thing. You know, all these are important. These are what the passive investors look for. Don't be surprised when they come and say, hey, I want to run a background check on you. Oh, how dare you want to run a background check on me, right? Well, go ahead, let them do it, right? And they want to know rent roll. They want to know T12. They want to know tax returns. Give them, okay? Right? If you want to do a deal, that's how you develop a relationship, right? You want to do that. As much as a passive investor need to develop a relationship for the comfort level, they're putting the money with you, you got to develop a relationship to give that comfort level, that they know that they agree with you, the way you work. And they can easily call and talk to you, hey, my son is looking for an internship, do you have any idea? And they say, well, you know what, let me think about it. That's the kind of friendship you're looking for. Share what's important for you, right? What are you trying to achieve? As a manager, you got a lot of things, you got a lot of people, you got a lot of pressures, right? But people need to know who you really are. If they don't know, they may never take that step to walk with you on your journey, right? Your journey, you're going somewhere. Tell them why you're going there. What motivates you to go in there. Share what you do outside, right? Who are you really? That's really important. Be authentic. What do I mean by authentic? What's inside of you should be compatible with what you're doing outside. And people pick up if there is a dichotomy, right? It's called hypocrisy, right? Every single person pick up, hey, something's wrong with that person, right? Until they get the comfort level, they won't work with you. Keep that in mind. Follow up, add value. Adam talks about it all the time, adding value. So make sure you add value. Share your underwriting, how you wrote this, right? How you decided to go into the deal, make sure you share with them. Displace the notion. You are there to suck the money out of them, right? That's what everybody thinks. Displace it. Make sure that you are adding value. It doesn't matter to you whether they deal with you or not, but it's a relationship you're looking for. Professionally interact with them. Have a professional website. Veena's talking about it. Have systems in place. So you don't have to take every email, every text and whatnot, right? Make investor money work right away. I've seen some of the managers, they tell me the closing is in June, and you give them the money June 1st. I find out the real closing is in September. I don't like it. You close in September. You tell me in September. I give you the money 2 weeks before that. No problem, right? Make the money work. Don't make them wait. Send them financial statement, monthly statement. You get them from your manager. Send it to them, right? Some investors, they look at them. Not all of them. But I certainly do. Send check on schedule. If you don't, you will never get the money back again. The other thing, current market value. Every year you need to develop that with an independent appraiser and send it to your investor. A lot of the investors need that, whether you like it or not, because we do a lot of different things. We need to submit those, and we have to have those. Keep that in mind. You know, these are little things you want to know. What are you passionate about in life? You got to know that. And if you function in that, you're going to be successful. If you are simply doing it and you're not passionate about it, go find it. Figure out what you're passionate about and find it fast. If you don't, you will not be as successful as you could be. And what's most important? Time, right? We all have this one thing that's 24 hours given to all of us. It's the same. Once you lose it, you never get it back. So, if you want to talk, I'll be available. Thanks, guys.
We have time for 3 questions for Siva on passive investing. Raise your hand.
First of all, thank you for speaking. I know everybody here really appreciates you. I just want to know how you got started and any advice for newcomers.
How I got started is I have an engineering business. I have a speaking and training and coaching business. And I've been doing that for about 20 years. And I do have a lot of cash flow. So I love what I do. I was talking to Adam, and I went in and said, hey, I want to do this, single family. We started with fix and flip. You know that, right? Fix and flip. And then I said fix and flat, right? That's what I did, fix and flat. And then I moved on to single family. We made a lot of money doing single family. We started in 2012. We bought rows of, houses, and we would rent them out. And 3 years later, we sold them. We made money. The problem was single family. You get beyond a certain point, it's a job. It requires a lot of time, and I don't have time. So I said, okay, I want to go multifamily. So I went in and started training myself 5 years ago how to do the multifamily. I was going to do it myself, and I got into it, and I said, really? This is a job. I don't want to do this job. I want to do what I want to do. So I ended up actually finding people, working with my coach, and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Get me to where I want to go. And he said, the best for you is to learn how to do the deal analysis and then do passive investing. And so that's how I started doing passive investing in multifamily. And I started small, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've done now tens of deals with several managers, and we're continuing to do deals. My goal is to have a rolling in and out every year, right? At least 2 or 3 of them coming in and out every year. So always have money for the next deal.
What are different avenues of finding passive investors?
I'm sorry?
Different avenues of different places that you can find passive investors. Like one is like the Facebook, we know like other meetups, but anything else that you can try. I see that some groups are out there, like 506 group, like any other things that you know. But you're actually passive investors. From other side, from a manager perspective, do you know anything other avenues to find?
Yeah, there is a lot of avenue. Believe it or not, right in this room, I tell you, there's hundreds of millions of dollars sitting here, if not more. There's a lot of money sitting here. People have money. They won't give it to you unless they trust you, that you are capable, that you're knowledgeable, that you've been around the block a few times, and you have a good reputation. So your job is to build that. That's where you're networking. That's what you want to transmit. It's not about a project. It's not about, I got this deal, you want to put the money in. It's never going to happen. You got to have a relationship. They got to know that you're the real deal, that you're going to deliver value. Most of the guys, remember, I asked the question, who is the ultimate passive investor, right? I will still ask that question, who is the ultimate passive investor? Can anybody answer me that question? Think about it. Who said that? Good answer. It's the bank. is the ultimate passive. You know why? They hold all the cards. They give only 70%, 80% of the money. And you do anything wrong, they take it, sell it, get the 80%, call it a day. They don't care about your money, they don't care about your reputation, they don't care about nothing. That's where you want to be. And on top of it, if you're really a bank, you take $10 million and the government allows you to lend $100 million, and the $10 million comes at 2% interest, the $100 million goes out at 6% interest, you figure out the math. You're making like 50% return on this thing with no money of yours. See, I want to be a bank at the end of it all. That's the ultimate passive investor right there. Any other questions?
Hi, I hear you talk a lot about managers and whether you want to be a manager or not. What do you look for in a manager, and is that something you could subcontract out, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he was asking the question, what do I look for a manager specifically, right? And do I give it to somebody else to figure out who the manager is, right? I never give that out to somebody else. That is my job. I want to know who the manager is. How do I know who the managers I'm going to work with? I have certain principles, right? I don't want anybody who wants to cut corners and break the law. That's basic minimum, right? Everybody has to get above that level before I will consider that. Beyond that, I want to see managers who want to add value, who understands team sport, right? It's not about them. It's not about their control, right? They have the control. Everybody knows that, right? It's not about that. It's about them recognizing, hey, without you, I cannot do this. And if I hear that, that's another plus, right? And the third is, do they pass all the background check? Really important to me. And that's another check. And I also talk to other people that they worked with and say, hey, who is that person? How do you like it? You know, what have they done? You know, what would you say? I talk and find out. And, you know, all of these play into making a decision whether you want to work with the person or not. Now, just because you don't want to work with someone doesn't mean they're a bad person, right? I just love a lady, you know, from San Francisco, Stanford graduate, you know, master's, really good, really smart. I really like her, good work ethic, honest, have integrity and everything. But the way she was doing deal doesn't fit with the criteria that I have, right? And I don't violate the criteria that I have. I do not violate it. If I violate it, it has got to be a very strong, absolutely strong reason to violate it. You know, so that's how I work.
So what's the role of the manager?
I want them to be professional. I want them to do their job. I want them to add value to the property, and I want to see that every quarter. There is a change. Every report I look for, I see there's an increase in rent, right? And that reflects in your income. There's a decrease in expenses that's reflecting your total. And the NOI going up, right? And I want to see that. Every quarter I want to see that. And what they laid out to what they're actually performing, I actually verify that. I have a software that actually calculates what was specified and what was achieved. I calculate that. And the more they fall in line, the more I work with them. The more they deviate, the more I move to somebody else.
All right. We don't have time for more questions on this panel, unfortunately, but definitely get with Siva. Give him a big round of applause. Thank you, guys. Thank you.